But the concept itself can relate to like inanimate objects. And dirt, of course, doesn't have moral qualities to it. It can't sin, all right?
You used the word sanctified. Does that have anything to do with holiness? And can there be a space that is actually holy?
Yeah, by definition, sacred space is holy space. Again, because it is space or a place that's set apart by God's presence. Either something in the past, again, it could become recognized as a sacred spot, or something that's used, ritually, like the temple, parts of the temple, that sort of thing. So the two concepts do go together. I can tell by your question, though, and this is really common territory, where we're used to thinking about the word holy in a moral sense. In the Old Testament biblical Hebrew vocabulary, to sanctify a spot, to sanctify a place or an object, and even a person, doesn't really have anything inherently to do with moral qualities or points of morality. I mean, there is a relationship because, just generally the people of God wants them to be holy. He wants them to be his exclusive people. So there is at some point a connection between behavior either in or on sacred space, or like behavior of priests, or just Israel's supposed to be a kingdom of priests, so the idea gets amplified. But the concept itself can relate to like inanimate objects. And dirt, of course, doesn't have moral qualities to it. It can't sin, all right? So the sanctification terminology, the holiness terminology, the idea of sacredness, doesn't inherently have morality in view. That's just sort of a subset of the greater sort of concept in the biblical worldview.
Are holiness and sacred space related to ritual impurity and the Old Testament sacrificial system?
Yeah, they are. This really gets into how sacred space could be defiled. Again, you see that language in the Old Testament a lot, defilement. There could be things that either happen to a person or a person does that, again, aren't necessarily moral violations. They're not moral things, but they result in a person, whether it's a priest or a worshiper, somebody bringing an offering, that mandates that they not tread on sacred space. So ritual defilement, again, this takes lots of different forms. And usually these ritual defilements really arise from sort of the circumstances of life that you don't really have any control over. So they're not like willful violations of morality and things like that. But you could have certain things happen to you that just render you impure. And the solution for the impurity would be a sacrifice. And the system sort of has its own internal logic. You're not, again, being forgiven for a moral violation. You are either being prevented from defiling sacred space, or if you happen to, again, have transgressed in that way, in that sense, you're forgiven whether you really knew it or not. That you tread on sacred space after some point of defilement happened to you. So the two are related. But again, typically we think of the sacrificial system as about, again, making somebody who's immoral, moral, or something like that. And again, there are parts of it that trace over to that area a little bit, but for the most part, it really is about protecting sacred space, cleansing it of defilement, purging impurity in a very abstract sort of way.